Nom Nom delivers fresh food with whole ingredients backed by veterinarian science. Science tells us that a dog's health starts in the bowl, so improving their diet is one of the best ways to help them live a long and happy life. Nom Nom's food is full of proteins your dog loves and the vitamins and nutrients they need to thrive. All you have to do is order, pour, and serve. Ready to make the switch to fresh? Order Nom Nom today. Go to https://trynom.com/curveball and get 50% off your first order plus free shipping. That's https://trynom.com/curveball. Plus, Nom Nom comes with a money-back guarantee. If your dog's tail isn't wagging within 30 days, Nom Nom will refund your first order. No fillers, no nonsense, just Nom Nom. Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Welcome to the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, a show where I interview guests that teach, motivate, and inspire. And I definitely have a motivational message for you today as I'm joined by high school teacher, football coach, and author, Roger Pollard. Roger is going to be talking about individuals. He's going to be talking about goal setting, who we are as individuals, how to stay connected, and all kind of positive and motivational things. Going to be telling us about his motivational book and how we can keep up with everything that he's up to. So, Roger, thank you so much for joining me today.
CJ, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate having you. Why don't you start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm Miami, Florida, born and raised. Was a football player, football coach, and ended up getting into education, and just always been that motivational guy. Whether it was the group of guys that I was working with when I was working out, or just as a coach, and then also as a teacher, and really started just going into the deep meditations on how much people will say one thing but then do another. You know, like we all have goals. Everybody makes a whole bunch of goals when it comes down to January 1st. But by the time it's February 1st, we're no longer pursuing that thing that we still want. So really just started getting curious about it and started doing research on it. And then I figured if it's something of my interest, if it's something that I really like to do, then I might as well, put in the time to find out more information about it. So, that's just who I am. That's what I am. That's how I've coached. That's how I've taught. And that's really how I want to live my life in the pursuit of what I call wisdom, which would be the purposeful integration of information into ourselves. I'm not people aren't good people. They're not bad people. They align with good things or they align with bad things. And I just want to get that message out there, be the change that we want to see in the world.
Well, let's talk about your football career. You played and you're coaching, so kind of tell us about that. Tell us who you played for and the team that you're coaching and how you did in your career, any accomplishments and achievements, and any accomplishments and achievements as a coach. I know you've been coaching as a head coach for like 10 years.
Yeah. Well, I played at Coral Gables Senior High in Miami, Florida. I ended up getting a full scholarship to North Carolina State. I played there when Phillip Rivers was there. That's the easiest way to get people to kind of get their time frames right. We played under Chuck Amato, really just changed the program around and won a lot of games and had a lot of fun. And I tell my students that probably the two most integral points or stages in our lives when we grow is that 14 to 18 range when you're really going to grow physically. And then from that 18 to 22 range, you're going to grow mentally and emotionally. You know, you're just going to have more responsibilities, and it's not really about not doing something because of your parents, but not doing things because they don't align with your core values and virtues. Um, after after playing in college, I came back down and ended up coaching at my alma mater, Coral Gables Senior High, for about 2 or 3 years, and then my linebacker coach at North Carolina State, Manny Diaz, asked me if I wanted to be a graduate assistant at Middle Tennessee State. So I did that for 2.5 years. I ended up getting my master's and really, you know, being able to see the game of football from the inside, from the coaching box, or from Monday night, you know, Monday through Friday, you know, what the game week is like, what meal preparation is like, how much planning, you know, all of the staff meetings every morning that people don't see. Um, and that's when I first got that itch or that bug to become a head coach. So I came back down home and started, you know, getting my resume out there, and was going to end up leaving my school to get a head coaching job somewhere else, and then they offered me the spot. So I played at Gables, coached at Gables, and then became the head coach at Gables. Um, we won some district championships. We made it to the semifinals uh, a few years, and really had a lot of success on the field. At one point, over a 3 year span, I think we were like 30-3. You know, we were just winning a lot of games. Never ended up winning a state championship, and I actually recently stepped away from coaching. I have 2 8-year-old twins that take up my time now, and just using the lessons that were blessings through the experience of coaching, and still I say I don't coach on the field, but I coach in the classroom. You know, because a coach is someone who takes, or something that takes, a person from one place to another. So, you know, I go after my students just like I used to go after my players. You know, when you walk into my classroom, you are you are you are accepting a role, right? The role that I am accepting and portraying and playing is that of teacher. And if you're in a desk and if you are here, then you are accepting the role as a student. You know, whenever we're in a role, we are like, as a speaker. If I'm going to speak, I can't sit there and mumble. Right? There are certain uh, rules, I would say, that we have to abide by once we participate in certain roles. So you know, that's kind of just my philosophy. It's my mentality, and I think, you know, us as a civilization, you know, just as people, we've always got to identify two things. You know, where are we and where do we want to go? So, you know, that's what got me into the motivational space, and that's what got me into just writing and being an author, which is I guess you're never done growing, right? You're always trying on new leads, you're always trying on new hats, trying to do some things different in this thing called life.
So tell us about your teaching career. You know, I know you teach high school. Tell us about what you teach and what made you want to be a teacher. You've been doing it for 15 years, so it must be something you enjoy.
Yeah, it is something I enjoy because it is. I mean, it's of course it's stressful, right? Anything that you're involved in, like we get meaning from being able to identify uh, a something, right? We identify something, and then our action actually um, actually changes whatever that thing is. You know, so as a teacher, I enjoy seeing the growth that a lot of my students take part in. You know, the kid that walked into the classroom, or even the football player who walked into the weight room, anybody who walks into and listening to your podcast, you walk in one way, but then you're going to walk out you're going to walk out a little different. You're going to walk out a little smarter. You're going to walk out a little stronger. You're going to walk out a little faster. Something is going to change. And I do appreciate the role that I play in that relationship, but you can't lose respect for that role. You know, no one person can change everybody, because everybody is a unique individual. Nobody in the world is ever going to be like you. There will nobody ever, that has ever been like you will be like you. We are all unique centers of experience and perception. So the educational process, seeing kids not really know, because I teach ninth grade this year, world history, seeing kids come in for the first time, and a lot of my lessons have nothing to do with history per se. Um, hey, look, guys, you're ninth grade. Write all of your homework in one location. Don't be organized. Get the biggest deterrent of our age. Get off the phone. Know what your relationship with the cell phone and technology is. I have some students, they can have a cell phone on their desk and still do their work. I have other students where it's like, look, you've got to get to the point where you understand it. If you have that cell phone on the desk, you you currently lack the self-discipline not to pick it up if it chimes or if it rings or if it beeps. So put it in your book bag. Know, set yourself up for success, because if you don't, you're ultimately setting yourself up for failure. So it's being able to see that I guess not the flowering, but the budding, the evolution of us as people. We we never stop growing. Like, if you were to ask me if I was going to be the author of 5 books right now, going on book 6, 2, 3 years ago, I would have told you were crazy. So being able to see that and witness that, and then from that, in understanding that they're growing, also acknowledging that I'm growing as well.
Speaking of those books, tell us about those books. Tell us what listeners can expect when they read them, and where we can actually pick them up.
All of my books are on Amazon. My first 3 books were on football. My most successful book on football is implementing a defensive game plan, implementing defensive championship defense. Excuse me. And it's not talking about the X and O's particularly. I wanted to really focus on how do you implement a plan? How do you what should you be doing on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Friday? The current themes or the current ideas that successful teams and successful defenses implement. Is there a certain strategy? So no 2 people are alike. Everybody's going to do things differently, but I really wanted to just give kind of like a guide in terms of from a preparation standpoint, from a developing a plan, thinking about a plan, articulating a plan, and then getting the plan to be executed. Because that's all the fans, and that's really all the school. That's all everybody really cares about, is how well you execute it, not not how good the game plan was. And then so there's implementing the defensive game plan, and then linebacker play, because I was a defensive guy, of course, and then structuring a championship program, which is like, just if you're a new head coach, or even if you're still a head coach, just all of the things that I did in my program, some of the different ways that we split things up, and just giving a rough rubric on how to structure some of these things. Then I went into the motivational book series, and I noticed that every time we think about motivation, the first thing that we think about is it's the raw speeches and the, hey, let's get fired up and let's go. But I said I didn't like it. I said I think the first step in motivation has to be self-awareness. If I want to go right now to the store, I can plug the address to the store in. But the other thing that I must need, the most important thing that I need to know, is where I am. So my first book in the motivational series is really going into the psychological factors and the sociological factors that make us who we are as individuals. I say sociological and psychological because I think everything that we do in our reality is duality. I tell people that the most important time of your life the most important event of your life is that you were born. And just as equally important is the fact that there was someone there for us. Like, we're not little sea turtles. So, we don't hatch out of eggs and just run over into the water. So both of those aspects mean that we are both an individual and we are both a group. Like, we're using the language right now. I'm speaking to you, but I didn't develop this language. We are a network people. We're a community of people, and so much of who we are as individuals has been passed on to us from the greater group. So really just going into that so that people can get a really good, firm understanding of who they are. I'm a conscientious person. I like to get work done. I like to be orderly. That's just the way I am. There are people that aren't like that. And we always, wag the finger of, oh, you need to do this and you need to do that. No, once you understand who you are, like I have to schedule in my breaks. Like I will work flat out 23-hour days and go after it. I have to schedule in my breaks. There might be someone who they have to schedule in their times where they need to work. So the first one is figure out like who you are. And then my second one was I can't give you a rule for every single situation. And therefore I think a motivational path has to move into the integration of virtues. And the virtues that I came up with were courage, love, and discipline. I have to have courage to move over into the future because we don't know what exists in the future. No one's a fortune teller. Um, love, love is my ability to sacrifice for the person that I will be. Like, who's more important, who I become or who I am? And it's always who we become. So you have to love yourself. You have to sacrifice the current version of yourself for the better version of your future self. And then discipline, which is the past. Like, use the lessons and blessings from the experiences that you have been through, not good, not bad, not anything, all experiences. Extract those lessons and blessings and take them with you into the future. So I broke those down into practical steps. Courage. Um, the number one thing we all know that we will have in 20 years. The only thing I can say for 100% fact that I will have is my body. Everything else, I have no idea. I can say that I'll have my car. I can say that I'll have this clothes, but cars get in accidents, houses burn down. We have no idea about that. So if I know that my body is the only thing that I will have in 20 years that I can be 100% confident in, then what am I doing to how am I feeding my body? What am I like? Every animal on the earth sleeps. What are my sleeping habits? Well, what do we say about sleep? What does sleep do for us and our body? And then exercise. I think exercise has the worst stigmatism behind it, simply because everybody thinks about working out in terms of the body that I want, but the data is in, the science is in. Everybody knows that exercise, the best thing exercise does for you isn't for your abs or your weight. It's actually for your brain. So in each one of them, like that one was the body, and then love, artistic creation, study and scholarship, study our history. What have the human beings of the past? What mistakes have they made? Spiritual connection, have some type of connection to something that is bigger than you. So I highlight all of those points, and then the third book of that motivational series should be coming out in November, and that's going like a deep dive in all of those virtues: the courage, love, discipline, virtue, and then going into the philosophical reasons why why these things are, if we focus on them, so powerful.
Okay, well, besides that book that you got coming out in November, what else are you working on that people need to know about?
No, really, honestly, that's just it. It's working on that third book, getting that one out and on Amazon, and then each and every week, just trying to put a little message out there that is something that I would say is opposite than the news. Like I call the news the negative entertainment with spice. Uh, doing just giving people kind of practical ideas, practical concepts that every now and then let's feed our brain something positive. Let's feed our brain something that will make the day a little bit better. Make our lives a little bit richer, because it doesn't matter how good or bad something is going in. It doesn't matter how good or bad a situation is in our lives. The number one thing we all know is that we are facing death. One day, the Grim Reaper is going to come. So because everybody in the earth would trade places with me in a heartbeat, I have got to come from a spot or from an energy of gratitude. You know, like how grateful are we that we wake up every morning? How grateful are we for the opportunity to feel the warmth of the sun, feel feel the cool breeze, you know, and also go through some tough and bad times, right? Like I think everybody will affirm that any negative situation that has taken place in their life, that's where a lot of our biggest lessons come from. You know, our greatest achievements come when we our greatest achievements come as a result of our biggest obstacles. So, you know, no matter how things are going, we can always reframe and relook at a situation and figure, you know, it's never as bad as we think. It's never as good as we think. You know, this too shall always pass because the sun don't stop for nobody. You know, the sun's gonna rise and it's gonna set. So, you know, reaffirm goals, reaffirm what we're trying to get done, and and for me as a person that has just always been uh, uh, I guess leaning to sharing motivational words or inspiration to other people. That's what I try and focus on my little Instagram page at which is at the number one Roger Pollard.
And speaking of that, go ahead and throw out the rest of your contact information. You have a website also, so listeners can keep up with everything that you're up to.
Yes, sir. My website is motive and motivation .com, and it really just works on that same concept in terms of not necessarily giving people the riled up speeches, but giving us some the information that when we think about it, when we listen to it, if it makes sense, that people can start um, building an ecology of practices that if they put they put action into thought, they can build something. And then, of course, that Instagram, the number one, Roger Pollard, ROGERPOLLARD, and I post just once a week. On Saturdays is usually my day where just trying to get people to think of something from a philosophical standpoint, from a theological standpoint, and have somebody have something positive coming into a feed there that's not so, I guess, egocentric centered in our, what we see a lot of in our day and age. And then on my website, there's a page where if anybody ever has a question of anything, I started a little mini podcast, which is Motive and Motivation, that, I'll answer a question just to, again, put some more positive words and positive spin out there in the world.
Okay. Close us out with some final thoughts. Maybe if there was something that I forgot to talk about that you would like to touch on, or just any final thoughts you have for the listener.
My final thoughts are two things. The one thing I ask everybody is whether or not they know the Pledge of Allegiance. You know, where every day as a school teacher, our kids come in and they pledge allegiance to the flag. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Actually, I'm saying it's a great thing. Um, uh, but with that said, I think it's weird that everybody knows what the Pledge of Allegiance is, but no one has a pledge of allegiance to themselves, right? Pledge is a promise. Allegiance is alignment. How do we promise to align with whatever thought or product that we think we want to cultivate as us, as people, as individuals? And if it makes sense to you right now, I say go ahead and make one. Go ahead and make something that every morning when you rise to get yourself or get your mind into a more positive state, that you say for you, to you, by you, to get you in a proper setting. Before you turn on the news, before you do anything that we have to face the challenge that the world is on a daily basis. And that challenge will, always be there. So knowing that challenge will be there, what's our pledge of allegiance to ourselves? And then two is just focusing in on attention. How much, like, everybody knows that if I say who is McDonald's, who is Burger King, who is Wendy's, who is Pizza Hut, who is Gone, like we know all of these places, but yet all of these places still advertise. So what that tells me is that what we put in front of our eyes and what we put in front of our ear, or what we put into our ears, actually makes a difference in our behavior. So I'm just like, look, let's be intentional about where we put our attention. And if you want to get a number on it, everybody know, like the Super Bowl commercials. How much does it cost for a company to get a commercial during the Super Bowl? It costs millions of dollars. But that's telling us that our attention is divine. Like if we were superheroes, our power would be our ability to focus. So if we know that, then one, how are we building that ability to focus? And then two, what are we paying attention to for no other reason other than our future self, the person that you are in 10 years would say thank you to you, right? And I'm not saying like all day, like we have to live, we're going to make mistakes and everything like that. But 5 minutes a day, is there something that you're listening to put yourself in the proper state? 5 minutes a day, is there something that you're listening to or educating yourself on so that you can grow into a better version of yourself? So, those are my two things. Be intentional about our attention, and then be grateful. You can't take things for granted and be grateful at the same time. So I guess that's my closing quote.
Absolutely. And we're definitely grateful for that message and those final thoughts, and definitely grateful for having you on the show to share your expertise. Listeners, I would be grateful if you would follow, rate, review, share this episode to as many people as possible. I would be grateful if you would send any guests or suggestion topics to cjackson102@cox.net. And I would be grateful if you would tell a friend about the show. As always, thank you for listening. And Roger, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. I love it. Thanks for having me.
For more information on the Living the Dream podcast, visit www.djcurveball.com. Until next time, stay focused on living the dream.